very much for this opportunity.
My pleasure, and I hope you're well, Jorge.
We are doing fine. Are you well?
Yeah. So I'm tired, but I'm well.
Well, I imagine had been exhausted. What it took so long to get to this moment?
You know, Jorge, it's so hard to manage anything when all of a sudden the rules change immediately. We have 2 weeks into our season, enormous momentum, Miami coming in and Nashville coming in, and then the pandemic hits and everything stops. And it forced us to rethink how we would continue in 2020 with no uncertainty as to when we can get back into our stadiums. So we needed to come up with a plan like the one we've just announced to bring our players to Disney for a World Cup style tournament. We needed to ensure we had the testing and medical protocols in place. We needed an agreement with our players, and we needed to operationally develop a concept that's never been done before. So it was quite a challenge.
How many people are going to move to Orlando, including players, coaches, assistants, TV crews, etc., etc., etc.?
You know, over 1,500 people. Over 1,500. A massive group of people, from 850 players to technical people to TV production to all of the folks that will operate the games and medical people. It's a logistical challenge because, again, it is very much like operating a World Cup. You know, it is very similar to the structure that happened in the World Cup in 1994, where you had 24 teams, and then you had group play, and then quarterfinals and semis and finals. We have a similar concept. Group play, 3 regular season games in group play. The winners go up into the round of 16, and then from the round of 16 into quarters, semis, and finals. So it's going to be very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to it.
How do you work it out with NBA? Because at the same time, they are going to be there too. There are no conflicts between NBA and MLS?
No, they'll be in a different hotel, and they'll be playing indoors in an arena where they have multiple basketball courts, and we'll be playing at the ESPN Wide World of Sports complex, which has dozens of soccer fields. So we'll be outdoors, and they'll be indoors. They'll be in one resort, and we'll be in another resort.
No publics in the stands. Are you planning to bring public before the year ends?
You know, I hope so, Jorge, but I don't know the answer to that. The first step is to get back into our stadiums without fans, and then being able to do what the Bundesliga has done so effectively, and La Liga and the Premier League are all looking to do soon. First, we got to get back home, get our players to be able to train full team training in their home markets. And then hopefully there might be some cities and clubs that will be able to open up and have some fans before the end of the year.
Going back to the Orlando tournament, San Jose, Chicago, and DC Uniteds are the one arriving earlier than the rest?
At this point, those are the ones that plan on arriving earlier. And whether more decide to arrive earlier at this point, I can't say. But the teams that are unable to have full team training in their home markets will be able to go to Disney earlier and train on the Wide World of Sports complex.
What happened with those players that, for some type of conflict with the family or something, Carlos Vela, Chicharito, that their wives are pregnant? Are you working out something with them that they can bring the wives, or they can leave and you can promise them to put them back at home if something happens?
Well, certainly if anything would happen, Jorge, regardless of whether a player had a pregnant wife or not, if there was an emergency with a player, we certainly would allow that player to leave. And that's no different than we would manage during the year. We have to have our clubs and our players work through special situations and figure out how do we manage a player who has a pregnant wife and might be from another country and doesn't have the support that others would have if if they were close to their family, for example. So we're working with LAFC and with all of our teams to determine how will we manage those special situations.
You have many of those cases or just few of them?
Yes, we have a lot of young players, and many of them are married and have young families. So more than you would think. We were surprised to find that out.
Especially after this quarantine, huh? In 9 months from now, it's going to be many more MLS fans, for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. The pandemic boom as opposed to the baby boom.
That's right. Okay, let's get into more serious stuff. Some players felt you were trying to take advantage of them by including the force majeure clause in the new collective agreement. Do you regret doing that?
No, I really don't regret negotiating and getting a force majeure clause. Or I mean, this is a new world, and I think you'll see in all businesses, certainly in the sports industry, we all need to be protected in the event something like this happens again. Because what's happened now is that there's no certainty, there's no basis to even have a proper negotiation. The owners will be losing, what could be as much as $1 billion and want players to share in some of that with salary reductions, and there's no basis to have a negotiation because there's no agreement as to what happens in the event of another event like this. Our players agreed to a force majeure. We didn't agree until the very end as to what the exact language of that clause would be. And we had difficult discussions. They were very difficult, and we had built a great relationship with our players. But anytime you have labor negotiations, at times they can get difficult. They're difficult under the best of circumstances. And I think they were very much more difficult because of the overhang of the pandemic on the entire environment of our discussions with them.
About that $1 billion that they may lose at the end of the season, are you going to recuperate some of that in this tournament, or you are going to break even with the tournament?
We hope to make some money on it, Jorge. If we're smart and we're lucky, we'll be able to. But it was primarily driven to get our teams back, to get them in front of our fans, to invest whatever we needed to invest to ensure that we would be able to have a return to play and even do it before some of the other leagues are going to be back on television. But this will not in any way recapture meaningfully the losses. The losses are driven by the fact that we are primarily a game day related business. And we're not going to have fans in our stands to be able to buy tickets for the most part, buy concessions and to have hospitality and the like. So 2020 is going to be a very difficult year.
What is going to happen after Orlando?
Well, we've got to find out how quickly we can get back into our home markets. That's a decision that will be made for us, not by us. The local authorities will have to decide when they're willing to open up sports facilities to fans, whether there's small groups of fans or whether they're socially distant over the percentage of the total audience, or whether in some cases we'll be able to have large group of people in it. But at this point, we have no exposure whatsoever as to when exactly that's going to happen.
We know what is going on right now with the competition between MLS and MX. Are you planning to resume the competition next year? I'm talking the Leagues Cup, the Campeones Cup.
Yeah, it's too early to be specific about that, Jorge. But we very much want to do everything that we can to get back and restart our competition with Liga MX. I have such a strong view that a closer relationship between Liga MX and MLS is good for both leagues, and it's good for CONCACAF in this region, and I think it'll be great for our fans. This certainly knocked us back a step because we've got to collectively, Enrique Bonilla and his teams and me and my teams, we've got to figure out what we're doing for the rest of the year. And then we collectively can get back to figure out what we need to do to get back and restart our discussions with each other.
Talking about Liga MX, they have suspended relegation for the next 6 years, and they want to add a single game elimination to their playoffs. It seems as they are copying whatever MLS is doing. Haven't they asked you advice or opinion about it?
You know, we talk a lot, and we're very close to the owners. Our owners are close to their owners. You know, I think that there is a collective belief, particularly with the World Cup coming here in 26 to Mexico, US, and Canada. There's a close relationship. There's a close relationship between me and Juan de Luisa and the people that are running the FMF. So we're talking all the time. I believe in our system, Jorge. I mean, I get so much criticism from fans about no promotion relegation in our playoffs. And I think if you were to take sports and start it all over again in football globally, if you would start today in England, you probably would have a system closer to ours than the system that exists today. Because it just makes sense in terms of being able to effectively build teams in their markets and invest in facilities and still have a very exciting competition. None of this takes away from the excitement of the competition.
There is always the issue that probably there is no relegation, that, you know, some teams, they just play, but they don't put all the intensity and the resources they should put on the field, because they know nothing bad are going to happen to them, only not winning the championship.
Yeah, you know, I think people who've grown up with promotion and relegation actually believe that if you're not successful in the year, that you give up. I deal with owners and coaches and players every day. And it's not, if you're at the bottom of the table, you can't walk around in your neighborhood if you're a player, because everybody thinks you're terrible. And if you're an owner, you can't exist with your partners, those people who are, you know, part of your system. And I don't believe it's just because you're going to go down. I believe that if you're not successful, your fans will leave you, your sponsors will leave you, nobody will want to put you on television. And if you're the owner of the team and you're walking down the street, you know, people are going to want to push you to the other side of the street, right? There's the real, particularly in other countries. I know what it's like to be under pressure and to see what the owners of Liga MX teams, what pressure they're under when their teams are doing poorly. You know that, like I know that. I don't believe it's just because you're going to go to another league. I believe there are other pressures that are very, very important. I believe that in my heart. Now, again, I grew up here without promotion.
I know, it's culturally over here in the United States. All the professional leagues are set up that way. So in our leagues in Latin America and Europe, it's different, but that's fine. We keep listening from Mexico that after 2026, there is a good chance that it's going to be only one league, MX, MLS. Is that possible?
You know, it's too early to talk about what could happen, you know, 7 years from now. Or, I mean, I've always been a believer as, you know, if you're building soccer in America, and everybody would tell me soccer will never make it. And I'd say, what makes you a genius? What do you know? You don't know what the future will look like. And those same people never believed in MLS, and look where we are today, right? So I don't know what will happen in 2027. I think it would be very difficult to create a full merger between the two leagues. But I don't know that a full merger is necessary, because if you think about the incredible value of the Champions League and look at what goes on in Europe, that is more valuable than arguably almost any league, if not every league, and maybe even the governing body. So I think it's the competition that can create value as opposed to the full integration. We need to have more meaningful competition with Liga MX, and we need to make the CONCACAF Champions League more important, not just for us, but for the Caribbean and for Central America. We need to be competitive with the rest of the world. And the way we're going to do that is to have better professional leagues. I'm very, very focused on that.
I've been calling crazy because I insist MLS is going to be in 7 to 10 years from now between the best leagues in the world. Are they okay? Are they right that I'm crazy?
No, I believe that too. I believe that there's so many things going on in our country and in Canada that are pushing the league up. You have, we will get past the pandemic. We'll get past the issues that are going on right now in our country with the protests about racial injustice and all the other inequalities that are really capturing a lot of attention. when we get past that and move forward, you have a great economy. You have lots of people that grew up with the game. You have a very diverse community of people that love football or soccer. And you have this enormous group of people between here and Canada. We have 350 million people. That's as big as Europe. So when you take that strength, and if we do it right, we should be one of the top leagues in the world. And hopefully you and I, 7 years from now, we could have a beer together and we could say, we got it right.
Will be, and we'll go, na, 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 na. That will be great. Will the teams be allowed to bring foreign players for the remainder of this season?
Well, there will be an opening of the window right before the tournament, and then there'll be an opening of the window later in the year. And yes, they will be able to both bring players in, but also trade players.
The last question. Zlatan in the last few hours said that kids has to pay to play in United States, and that he doesn't like that. You have something to comment?
I'm sorry, Jorge. He said what?
Zlatan Ibrahimovic said in the last few hours that kids in United States has to pay to play, and he doesn't like that. It's different than the rest of the world. Do you have any comment?
Do you mean pay to play as a youth player?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I think that is one of the real issues in development here in our country. There's not enough access for young people to play the game and get coached at a very high level outside, frankly, of our academies, which are all free. MLS academies are free. So Alphonso Davies, who played at Vancouver and then got sold to Bayern Munich, he didn't have to pay to be in the MLS Academy in Vancouver. But most kids are part of a system where they have to pay. And unless we can fix that, America will never be able to be as effective in developing players as the rest of the world.
How far away from it?
I don't know the answer to that, but we need to work as a league, and we need to work as a governing body, U.S. Soccer, to get focused on fixing that. And if we can't, we will not succeed at the international level.